theyeshiva.net.
Okay, Chav Ches Amud Aleph, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Closer to the bottom of the page, the line starts Lavle Hanis Nitnu. Around, 10-15 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Yehuda b'Shofar shel Avoda Zarah. The Gemarah opened up this sugya that Rabbi Yehuda told us a very important distinction. If somebody has an animal and the animal was consecrated as a carbon oila, and this person takes the horn of the animal, and while the animal is alive, say Erev Rosh Hashanah, whenever the animal is still alive, he removes the horn, or the horn falls off, and he fashions it into a wonderful shofar, and he blows the shofar. Is this fine or it's not fine? So Rabbi Yehuda said, do not blow such a shofar. It's not right, it's incorrect. And the reason is because this is a carbon, and you should not have hana from kachim. Huh? Very good. Very good. You should not blow in it. However, if you did blow, you don't have to do tkiyas again. You fulfilled your obligation. And the reason is, as Reb Lenny just explained to us, because this is a din of me'ilah, you inappropriately you misappropriated, I think is the word, right? You misused hektish, and the halacha is, it becomes chulin, it becomes mundane. Yes, you will have to bring an offering, you will have to pay back the hana you used, what you used, you will have to add a fifth, but essentially it's chulin, so you blew a shofar, it's like blowing a shofar of a friend. Great. Wonderful. Rashi pointed out this will only apply if it fell off or you cut it off when it was alive. If you waited till after everything, it was slaughtered, the blood was sprinkled, you're good to go, because the horn belongs to the koyanim. It's a koyan's shofar. I use a koyan's shofar, it's fine. So after zrikas hadam, after the sprinkling of the blood, in other words, when the procedure is over, the meat got to go on the mizbeach. Yes, there's me'ilah. The fat has to go on the mizbeach, but the fur goes to the koyanim. The bones, including the karnayim, go to the koyanim. This is something they can do. This is a benefit that the kohen gets from a carbon oila, as Rashi puts it. So therefore it's not a problem. You use the kohen's shofar, it's fine. So that's why after the zrika wouldn't apply. I saw an interesting thing. There's a sefer Yom Tru on Masechta Rosh Hashanah. So he says that in Pirkei de Rebbe Lezer, which is one of the great midrashim of the Tanoim, it says that from the horns of the ram of Yitzchak, the ram that Avram Avinu used by the Akedah, two shofars were made. The left shofar was used by Har Sinai. The Chala'am, Rayim Esakoilis, there was Koil HaShofar, that was from the left. And the right horn is greater from the left, and it's going to be used when Mashiach comes for Kibbutz Goliath, to gather Kabbalah Shofar Gadol L'Cheirusenu. We say in Shemini Esrei, that's the right horn. So he asks, the ram of Yitzchak was a carbon oila, vayalehu la'oila, tachas b'noi, we say every morning. No, Gemarah says that you should not blow with a carbon shofar of oila. So he says, of course, the shofar was taken after the whole avoda, after the zrika, so therefore there's already no din me'ilah. The whole problem is if it's taken when it's alive. No, when the ayil was alive, nobody took the shofar. There's a shofars that we used later in history, so it could have been done later. So it works with what Rashi tells us. Al kol panim, that's an oila. What about a shlamim? Shlamim is lechatchila no din me'ilah, because it's not completely hektish. What do you mean it's not completely hektish? It's almost like bringing your chicken to the shochet. Shochet shechts it and gives it back to you. A shlamim, what is a shlamim? I brought a carbon, I offer it, it goes back to me. Besides certain chalavim, which I can't eat anyway, that go onto the mizbeach, and a certain section that goes to the kohen. That's service fee, taxes, service fee. But it goes back to me. I brought a shochet to the chicken. Yeah, I also have to give him a tip. You give the shochet a tip by kaparis, yeah? How much do you give? $20? You have a whole family, okay? For every child. So you give the kohen a tip, you take it home and you eat it. You can eat the whole Yerushalayim. So there's no din me'ilah by shlamim. There's no din me'ilah besides on the fat that taka goes onto the mizbeach after you sprinkle the blood. Those emurim, taka there is a din me'ilah, but here you didn't take the emurim. You took the Karen, which is for sure yours. So therefore, there's no din me'ila. So if there's no din me'ila, paradoxically, it becomes much worse. Why? Because since there's no din me'ila, right, and it's still in the rishus of the Beis Hamikdash, because it's a carbon, it wasn't yet after the procedure. So actually now you weren't yaitza. You weren't yaitza the mitzvah. Why? Because the whole tkiyah shofar is one big isser. It's a big mitzvah abba ba'aveira. What's the aveira? The aveira is not just that you detached it. That's number one. The bigger aveira over there, you detached it. The aveira here is that the mitzvah itself is an aveira. In other words, the aveira is happening while you're doing the mitzvah, because you're having hana from the tkiyah shofar. You're having hana from using the shofar, right? So it's not just you did the aveira yesterday, like you stole a matzah yesterday, or you stole a sukkah yesterday, and you're eating it today, or you're using it today. Rather here, the Avoda is in the very mitzvah, or to put it even more than that, the Avoda happens through the mitzvah. If there wouldn't be a mitzvah, there wouldn't be hana. So the Avoda is happening through the mitzvah. It's through the mitzvah that you're having the Avoda. So therefore, you wouldn't be yotze. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. Rava asked a big question. What was Rava's question? Even by an oiler, you shouldn't be yotze. Why? Because when is the me'ilah happening? The me'ilah is happening, right? What is the me'ilah? You're having hana from hektish. When is the hana happening? The hana is happening when you do the mitzvah. It takes some time to do the mitzvah. You have to blow 9 kailas, tkiyah, true, tkiyah, right? 3 times. Tkiyah, true, tkiyah 3 times. After you did that, you fulfilled the mitzvah. Till you did that, you did not fulfill the mitzvah. When you didn't fulfill the mitzvah, you didn't have yet a hana. The me'ilah means you have hana from something of hektish. Then it goes out l'chulin. When did it go out l'chulin? After you had hana, because you did the mitzvah. That was only afterwards. So while you're blowing the shofar, you're blowing a shofar that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore you're doing an isser. So Rava said, l'cha'oira, it shouldn't work even by oila. And therefore Rava said, you're not yotze tkiyah shofar by both oila or shlamim. And then Rava retracted and said, actually the other way around. You're yotze by both, because mitzvahs lav lehanis nitno. So there's 2 svaris in Rava. The definition of a mitzvah is not hana, and therefore the whole din over here does not apply. The whole problem here is that what? That you're having hana from the Beis Hamikdash. The fulfillment of a mitzvah, including the mitzvah of shofar, is not considered a hana of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore you did not transgress an isser. Whether you took a shofar of oila or you took a shofar of shlamim, you did not transgress an isser. You're not having hana from hektish. You're doing a mitzvah with hektish. Or if you want to say it in a more abstract term, you're keeping it in the world of hektish. It's not a personal benefit. That's not what the mitzvah is. Mitzvah is serving Hashem. In a way, you, so to speak, keeping it in the world of hektish. You're not using hektish for hana, you're using hektish for a mitzvah. I didn't take a cow to plow with it my field. I didn't take a watch to tell time. I didn't take money of hektish in order to do a business. I'm doing a mitzvah with hektish. We learned before in the Gemarah that why shofar can't be a cow because of the chet ha'egel. Right? So the Gemarah says, it's not in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemarah says, Kivun de l'zikarin. You remember? Kalafnim dami. When you're blowing shofar, you're in Kodesh HaKadoshim. So you're using hektish. You're using hektish for shofar. You're using hektish for Kodesh HaKadoshim, so to speak. In other words, it's not a, even if you enjoy the mitzvah, the definition of the mitzvah is mitzvah's lav lehanis. It's not considered a hana. That was the big chiddush of Rava, and therefore you yotze the mitzvah in both cases. No, not negay of this me'ilah or no me'ilah. B'chal, the whole din of me'ilah is not shaykh. You're not having a no from hektish. By shlamim, there's taka no me'ilah. You're right. By oila, there is me'ilah, but here it's not negay because mitzvah's lav lehanis.
It'd be like using the talis in shul. Is it dash? I'm using it.
Yeah, I mean, but a talis in shul doesn't have a gedder of this type of Beis Hamikdash. Yeah, if it's I take the talis and I sell it, it's a din of gzela. I mean, I'm stealing property of shul. There it's pasha theft. I mean, it belongs to a shul. The shul allows people to use it by davening, so that's the chatchila part of the.
Maybe also
saying shuls have talis and they allow people to use it, so it's not a problem.
Maybe the Beis Hamikdash.
The shuls that have yam. Oh, if the Beis Hamikdash had such things, that's fine. So that was chatchila, not the property of the Beis Hamikdash exclusively. shuls have reading glasses and some yarmulkes. Some temples have yarmulkes. You could.
Isn't there a rule?
Those yarmulkes you don't take home. The paper yarmulkes you don't take home. What?
Ein bar mitzvah dvar aveira, like by little begazel.
Mitzvah haba ba'aveira. Right.
Ein bar mitzvah dvar aveira.
A mitzvah haba ba'aveira is not good, right? It's not a
Yeah,
mitzvah.
that's what I'm saying.
It's like the it's.
So you really can't.
You're doing a mitzvah by betraying me, right?
You can't have hana.
I steal your money and then I buy you an anniversary gift.
If the hana is doing the mitzvah, then you can't have hana from it. If you want to show somebody, look at my beautiful shofar, I have hana from having a chayfetz, right? But if it's here, we're saying the hana is doing the mitzvah, it can't ever occur if it's just.
You're right. We're talking about the mitzvah itself. The mitzvah itself is not a inyan of hana. The mitzvah itself is a Jew is an Eved Hashem. He fulfills Hashem's ratzon. It's not about hana.
Is a idol kosher without one horn? Is it a mum or no issue with the cutting the horn?
So middle of the night, I got a Rambam from Reb Shmuel. I get a whole Rambam that there's a problem with mumen. Yeah. So he couldn't sleep at night, and I couldn't sleep at night. I hope he got some sleep.
No, it's a two-story. There's two cases, a before and after case.
Before Zrik and after Zrik.
No, before Shkita.
After Zrika would be good. Who cares? But he's tining that it was Mechayim, and therefore there's a moment.
Why is it a bow?
That's the Lashon Harambam?
Yeah.
Even a little bit of it. Even a little bit of
The
it.
carrot?
I sent you the Rambam.
The Isurim Mizbeach, yeah?
On a carrot?
Yes.
Sant. I didn't know that. I don't know. I don't know. Tzarechiyun. He says the Rambam says it's mamash a mum, so if it was taken off, even if it fell off on its own, it's a mum.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be at makrif. So the whole thing doesn't apply here.
Even if he's supposed to have.
No, it's okay.
No, if he's supposed to have and he doesn't have, then he's not a
They
move.
shechted it with the carrot and they took it off afterwards. It fell off after
No, but Rashi says it had to be mechayim.
So Rashi doesn't do more like that.
Rashi says tol she mechayim. So he's asking if tol she mechayim, it's all over.
That's Rashi. It's Rashi. Rashi says, I'm just saying. Rashi.
So you're saying if it was after the shchita, before the zrika,
Right. That's what he's saying. If that's the shit,
which is fine. After the shchita, before the zrika would work. It's just not so common.
You're not slowing up the Gemarah. It's Rashi.
After the shchita, before the zrika.
After the shchita, that's not a problem. If you didn't have the shchita before the shchita, what's the problem?
No, then it would work. If it's after the shchita, before the zrika, there would still be a din me'ila.
No, what Rashi said.
I know, so it's good. So that's what Rashi learns. Rashi holds that it's not a bone. The Rambam holds it is a bone. Now you have a pshetel now.
You have to prove the Rashi.
You have a pshetel now.
Rashi and Rambam cannot say this.
It's a Machalish Rashi and Rambam, you can give him a little yeshiva too, you know. Such a pshetel. Yes.
Although the Shalzot Shuvas Shvus Yaakov says a very geschmack of art in Rashi. In other words, why does Rashi have to say it was life, during life? Why can't Rashi say you did it after the shchita, you shechted the animal, you come into the Beis HaMikdash, you're a kohen, yeah? There's a dead animal there, a dead ram, a slaughtered ram. They're anyway cutting it up, preparing it for the Mizbeach, right? So you take off the
You're supposed to go on.
right, supposed to go on the Mizbeach, right? And you detach it, and you use it. So the Pashtus, the answer is that, remember, it's not enough to take it off. You also have to clean it up and bore it, and it all has to be before Zrika Saddam. Now, between Shchita and Zrika was usually 60 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. They didn't sit the whole day to wait for Zrika. Yeah, you shechted, you had a keli or makabel the dam, you went to the Mizbeach, a few feet, whatever it was, and he was already good done. So it's 20 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. If it's a big day, it's like a few minutes. So when did he have the time? So that's why Rashi was supposed to be practical. Rashi was being practical. In theory, yeah, it could be. If you give him an hour, say, wait, don't do Zrika for an hour. And actually, if he waits for the Zrika, it's the good. If he waits for the Zrika, then it belongs to the Kohen. Talking about he didn't wait for the
The
Zrika.
blood's going to come out.
Exactly. But so if somebody mixes the blood by Korban Pesach, you have Memadas Hadam or Yom Kippur. If you mix the blood, it doesn't congeal.
He said,
Mesakin Kli. Taza. The Shofros Yaakov says there's a halachic issue. The halachic issue is the Rosh Hashanah. Hashanah is a Yom Tov. You're not allowed to make a Kli on Rosh Hashanah. You're not allowed to be Mesakin a Kli. It's Makab Patish. It's an Issa ben HaTorah. One more second. If it happened before Rosh Hashanah, then Erev Rosh Hashanah, then you can't leave over the blood at night because it's Pasal Belina. Zrikas Hadam always has to be the same day. So if the Shechita was Erev Rosh Hashanah, so you have to sprinkle the blood the same day. You can't leave it over for the night. If you sprinkle the blood that day, use your Shofar Gesundheit. It belongs to the Kohen. So you have to say you shechted on Rosh Hashanah, right? So you didn't do Zrikas Hadam yet, but then you can't be Mesakin a Kli. So therefore Rashi couldn't say that it happened after Shechita, because it would be after Shechita before Zrika. It has to be Erev Rosh Hashanah. Can't be Erev Rosh Hashanah because then the Zrika has to be the same day. If it's the same day, by the time Rosh Hashanah comes, you could blow your Shofar Gesundheit. It doesn't belong to the Beis HaMikdash anymore. It belongs to the Kohen, right? So you have to say what? That the Zrikas Hadam did not happen yet. In other words, the Shechita was on Rosh Hashanah. If he did it after Shechita, there's Tikkun Kli. Now this Jew is not fashioning a...
Not so fast.
Okay. So,
Why is that a halacha on sticking Kli?
You have few melachas.
You have to clean it out.
You have few melachas over there.
and bore a
Drilling
hole,
and-
the drilling.
You have to
And,
find out what Shittas or Rambam is about that. Because the Chayra, if the Rambam says it's a mum, so you can't look at Gemarah like that.
He said over here in the bottom, he said that it's a mum kamo, אבל אם נשאר משהו,
oh,
if
that's
if
what
you
I
have-
thought.
If you have a little bit left, then it's pasul mizbeach, but it's still ekdesh.
Okay?
Yud chet.
Oh, yeah, it's the real.
Going back?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Not from horn.
Not on the head.
These other ones, these animals appear, it goes on our shofar.
It's still pasul for mizbeach.
What goes back?
It doesn't, shofars don't go back.
Shofars don't grow back, but there are Antlers grow back.
By themselves, it's a different thing.
Shofar doesn't go back.
Antlers grow back, but not shofars.
There's a difference between antlers and horns. Some American.
Interesting order. Okay.
The Gemarah doesn't get into these details.
Not ours, right?
Because
Yeah, but what was the Havaman? Weiter.
It's not a book. It's
The Rambam says that if the bone is removed, it's a mum. Right? It's a complete mum. If it's a complete mum, you redeem it. You basically give the money and it goes out l'chulim. Right? Because you can't offer it. The Rambam learns if part of it is left, it's still a mum, you're not makriv of it, but it's not such a mum, but that you could be at paida. I guess it's with the Rabbanon. It's not a mum that the Torah would allow you just to redeem it, but on the other hand, you can't be at makriv if some is missing. Now a shofar we know could be shorter. In other words, you don't need a full horn, right? We learned before, as long as there's a tefach, aruch v'kitzra, it would be kosher. So that's what I was thinking. In other words, if it was long and part of it fell off, but still much part of it remained, so it's a kosher shofar, right?
It's still a
And you can't be at poida. So there would be a din me'ila. But then there wouldn't be zrikas hadam. There wouldn't be shchita and zrikas hadam. So that's why you can't say it was between shchita and zrika. You have to say it was alive. So that's why Rashi has to say it was alive, because you're not shechting it. But you still can't, it's still me'ila, because you still can't redeem it, because it's not a real mum. Whenever it happens, let's say it happens a week before Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you have a problem with Vesak and Kli. That's the Shal Shuv, the Shvus Yaakov, it had to be. Yes. It goes out, no, you don't have to let it die. Yeah.
It's kosher chutz.
It's called Kedushei Chutz. In other words, there's certain things you're not allowed to do with it, but you could treat it. Very seldom. Chatoyis shemesis. Yes, you could. You still have to respect it. It's not a regular animal. Giza, a few things. Yeah. has to be treated with more respect. Yeah, there's a few conditions.
But you can check them.
You can't take it to the local shop house
Yeah, no, you could.
you could.
Yeah.
But how do you treat it with respect?
After the pidyon. After the
Saying
pidyon.
after the picnic, you don't treat it with respect after.
Yeah, there's a few halachas. Yeah. Because it was once. It was once.
So it could have happened before the other one.
Yes. Weiter the Gemarah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says another fascinating halacha. B'shofar shel iran, shofar shel avodah zarah. What about a shofar of avodah zarah? What do we mean a shofar of avodah zarah? Let's say this shofar was used as what's called tashmish avodah zarah. It's an accessory for an idol, either a decoration. It was used for any purpose of avodah zarah, which would make it asur bahana. Now, when you say shofar shel avodah zarah, he doesn't say exactly what it was. So you could say it was used for the sake of avodah zarah in some way. It's called meshamshe avodah zarah. So the halach is lo yitka, he should not blow. V'im taka, if he blew, yotza. He's yotza. Now this is a big chiddush. Hanav avodah zarah, zok Rashi, b'shofar shel avodah zarah sheshimshu boi la'avodah zarah. They used this shofar for the purpose of avodah zarah. V'neser b'hana. Jew is not allowed to benefit from it. There's a brayse in Masechta Avodah Zarah, Daf Nun Aleph. It says, the pasuk says in Parshas Re'eh, Abei ta'abdu neskol ha'mekayim asher avdu sham hagoyim. Zog the Gemarah, b'kelim shenishtam sheben la'avodah zarah, akasav medaber. The Gemarah learns out over there that it's talking about utensils that were used for the sake of avodah zarah. So therefore, this shofar would be asur b'hana. And the Rishonim add, this would also apply to a shofar that was used as an avodah zarah. Some people in their meshagasin could worship a shofar too. You never know. It's not like you used a shofar, let's say, to blow while they were worshiping the temple or to make some concert, whatever they did. But rather, or as a decoration on an avodah zarah, right? Or no, the shofar itself was used as avodah zarah. That they worshipped it. That's what the Rashba says here. Also, it would be asur b'hana. So why, if you blow with it, it's a big chiddush. You yotze zakrashi v'im taka yotze the mitzvah slav hananin who same svara. It's not a gather of hana. I didn't have enough from avodah zarah. I did a mitzvah with avodah zarah, but I didn't have enough from avodah zarah. But it's not a mitzvah b'avera. So I'm yotze. Should you do it? You shouldn't do it.
Because of the Isra now.
Not me'ilah. This is avodah zarah.
I'm asking about Shlomo, if mitzvah slav lahanas, why can't you blow?
You could. Rava says you could. Rava says that then was by oil and shlomim you could. The big problem here is who said this din? Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds that by oil you're not yoytze because it's by shlom you're not yoytze because there's no meila. What about mitzvah slav lahanis? No, suddenly you changed your mind. So there's two ways of learning it. Tosfos says there's such a problem you have to change the girsa. Tosfos tain is that you have to change the girsa. He says, Rabbeinu Chan, Amr Rabbi Yehuda, you see the second Tosfos. Taima, Maishno Mishlam de Layatzim Shum the mitzvahs lahanis nitnu. Over there, Rabbi Yehuda held mitzvah is a hana, right? And therefore you had hana from the Beis HaMikdash. No, here you had hana from the Zorah. Rabbeinu Chananel God is Hachirava. I don't think it's an hour Rabbeinu Chananel, but apparently Tosfos had a different Rabbeinu Chananel, and there he's Takagoydis Rava. Rava would work perfectly. It's the same Rava like before. Rava is Lishitosim, mitzvah slavlan. Rabbi Yehuda would disagree. Or some say that when Rava said Hadar Amar Echad Zeh Echad Zeh Yatsa, Rava was arguing with the tradition of Rabbi Yehuda, but they were saying in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Rava says Rabbi Yehuda would have never said such a thing. Hadar Amar, Rava's discussion was explaining what Rabbi Yehuda really said. He wasn't arguing with Rabbi Yehuda. Then it would work, the Gemarah. In other words, when Rava was talking about Echad Zeh Echad Zeh, either the first way or the second way, he was saying, you guys did not hear what Rabbi Yehuda said. He never said such a thing. Either he said, you're not Yoitze in both, or then Rava said, you know what, he probably said, you're Yoitze in both. That way you could interpret it in this Girsa. So Zayin Azoy, but what about Rabbi Yehuda?
Isn't the concept of Neil maybe just that you're not allowed to use it? Not necessarily about enough. But the Zarah is not enough. So you could say love enough Neil. But by Me'ila, is it dafka enough? You're not allowed to use it. The use of
So you're saying by Avodah Zarah it's about Hana, and by Me'ilah it's using it for anything, which would explain why L'chatchila, should you use L'chatchila, carbon oil for a shofar? It's not mashma. The Rambam says you shouldn't do it L'chatchila, right? The question is, am I allowed to L'chatchila take the horn of a carbon shlamim, before Zrika and use it as a shofar? Huh? No, at the end he doesn't say Leitka, he says Yotza. So what about L'chatchila? But L'chatchila? So the Rambam says not. Why? Because it's far, even if there's no Geder of Hana, in other words, it belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. Who gave you permission? Let's say it's not Me'ilah. It's not a din Hanos hektish. Fine, you're doing a mitzvah. But who gave you permission? So L'chatchila you're not supposed to do it. Although others argue that it's even a din L'chatchila. So what are you tining? You're tining, therefore,
it's not a stira.
By Shlomim, he says, you're not Yotze. Why?
Because you're not allowed to use it. It's not a din of Hana. You're not allowed to use it. Over here, by the Zarah, it's a din of Hana. So over here, it's Lav Hana in here.
Is it use in Hana? Hana comes from use.
No.
Use something without being
The Hana comes from the use. So you're saying by Shlomim, it's Asur because there's an Isser. What's the Isser? He didn't have Hana from Hektish. He just used the Hektish. Not the Hana, but he used the Hektish.
The whole concept of using it by the Zarah is for Hana.
But Me'ilah, if you don't have Hana, you're not over.
You are over. By Me'ilah, you would still be us.
No, the din of Me'ilah is Hana. That's why you need Shava Pruta. No,
Oh,
you
you
need
do?
a
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you need a din Hana. Yeah.
In the by Zarah, you can say why is it? The reason why it's Yotze is because there's no Hana.
Lav Lahanisni.
But the reason why it's Asr, I can understand because it's a little bit of some kind of Hana, or you can say it's nothing to do with Hana. It's just it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate to use it.
Well, he Taka says you shouldn't use Avodah Zarah L'chatchila, even though mitzvah Lav Lahanisni. No.
Why is it L'chatchila is he saying Asr?
You saying why not use Avodah Zarah L'chatchila?
I'm not asking that.
Rashi says Nesa B'Hana. Im Taka Yatza.
Because of Hana, so because of Hana issue, but it could also be just because it's inappropriate.
Mos. Okay. I hear. Next in Shofar Shaliran Nidachas Lo Yitka. A shofar that comes from Iran Nidachas don't blow. V'im Taka Lo Yatza. What's the situation? Iran Nidachas means a city that was. How do they translate Iran Nidachas? A what? A city that was rejected. A what? Subverted city. What's the halacha of Iran Nidachas? A few of the citizens, a few of the residents of Iran Nidachas enticed the entire city, or the majority of people living in the city, to worship Avodah Zarah. This was a unique phenomenon. They enticed majority of Jews living in a city that everybody should worship, or most of them to worship Avodah Zarah. Now it's not anymore a din on individuals. Now the city assumes a new status in halacha. It's called an Ira Nidachas, and those who worshipped Avodah Zarah are killed. And here is the chiddush: all the spoil, all the shalal, all the assets, the buildings have to be destroyed, and all the assets and the money has to be gathered to the center of the city and be burnt. I come and I find there a horn of an animal and I use it for the Rosh Hashanah. So he says, don't blow, and if you blew, lo yatsa. Why? Regular Avodah Zarah, this not. My timer, what's the reason? Zok Rabbi Yehuda, Irani Dachas, Kisusei Mixas Shiure. Irani Dachas, the shear of the shofar is considered, what's Kisusei Mixas? Pulverized, it's scattered, Pulverized. It's crushed up like into crumbs. In other words, there's no shear of the shofar. It's like you have a shofar and it's a few crumbs. Why? What's the svara? So Rashi says, fascinating. Ksusa miksa shiure, the whole sreifa kai. This is owned by a Yid.
That can't be owned by Yid. It has to be owned by Yid.
Iran Nidachas is a Jew. Oh, you're asking another question. Okay, one second. The whole sreifa kai. This shofar is going to be burnt, right? Because Iran Nidachas, all the plunder, all the shalal has to be burnt. Ukesarov dami. So we have a principle, Kala Imid Lisuf Kasarav Dami. Since this is in a state where it's going to be burnt, even though now it's not burnt, halachically, we look at it as though it was burnt. For Shofar by a shear, and a Shofar needs a shear. Kedamrin and Leil Dav Chav Zayin, K'day Shear Chazana B'Yad B'Yirah Lakan Lakan. The shear of the Shofar, you should hold it with your hand, and you still see it from both sides. And this is not considered, it has the shear Shofar. Why? Kisuse mixes shiure. The shear is crushed into pieces. It's as though it's not here because it's oimed l'sreifa. No, and in the first case it's not oimed l'sreifa. The halacha is that all avodah zarah you have to burn. So l'cha'ira, why is it that in the first case? Why is it in the first case you yaitza? L'cha'ira you should say by always shofar is tzarich shear, and shofar avodah zarah is kisuse mixes shiure. This is a big shaila. All avodah zarah has to be destroyed. Every avodah zarah, right? We have a pasuk abed ta'abdin as kol ha'mekaymes v'nitatzesam. You have to destroy avodah zarahs. If this shofar is an avodah zarah, just like in nidachas, it also has to be destroyed. So kol ha'omed lichter shekaters dama, kol ha'omed lichter shekaters dama, kol ha'omed lister kasarav dama.
Maybe it's a negative type that the goy could be the vat.
Ataza. That's the difference. You have to say that this is an avodah zarah of a goy. A goy, there's a din of bittul avodah zarah. If he's mevatel as avodah zarah, it's ois avodah zarah. So then it's not necessary that what? Necessarily going to burn it. Where ir anidachas is Jewish avodah zarah. By Jews, there's no din of bittul avodah zarah. A Jew can't be mevatel avodah zarah. Once it's an avodah zarah of a Jew, it's fallen, it's an avodah zarah. It's an interesting halacha that only a non-Jew can get rid of avodah zarah, not a Jew. So therefore, if the first case was a shofar of a non-Jew of avodah zarah, it's not a problem. If you yoitza, if you blow, you yoitza. Why? Because mitzvahs lav lehanis nitnu, and it's not considered ksusim mixashur. That's what you have to say.
She said that the owner of the shofar is used for Avodah Shamshay died, that those that Yorshim didn't use it. Mashen came died.
Yeah, but once it's an avodah zarah of a Jew, even the Yorshim can't use
What
it.
I'm saying that it doesn't have to be pulverized. The question is, it doesn't have to be a shofar.
Right.
So when you have that din, if it was an individual shofar that was Shamshay was
Right.
So you couldn't use it, but it wouldn't be considered pulverized.
Right. It wouldn't be considered pulverized because he could be at mevatel. Mevatel means he does something that demonstrates that he stopped worshipping it, and he doesn't consider it anymore a deity, a god.
I'm saying even in the case of an individual,
Yeah.
it would still be extant. It would be extant because it isn't considered pulverized.
Right.
The individual's property could be still Yorshin, and therefore there has to be a mamashas before you can Yorshin, right? You couldn't use it.
No, but if it's something that halachically you have to burn, so it's already, in other words, we
But
can.
you don't have to destroy the avodah zarah
You do.
of an individual. I thought that was just by an on the God.
No. But there's other you have to destroy.
Maybe that's what Rashi says to Shimshah by Zarah.
No.
There was only Misham by Zarah. Does that have the same halacha?
Yeah. Tashmish avodah zarah, yeah.
Also has to be
Yeah,
destroyed?
abed ta'abda. Look right there, Rashi. Abdun ta'abdun is kol ha'mekaymes, bekelim shenishtamshe ben l'avodah zarah, hakasav medaber.
So what's the difference between?
So if it's avodah zarah of a Jew, there's no din bittul, so kesusim mixes shiure.
So why do we accuse the on Dakas? Why don't we just say it was an individual Jews and it's considered its own l'streifa, and therefore it can be buckled by a goy, and that's the only way you could use it. I thought that you have to be you could Yorshin. Is it incorrect what I'm saying that an individual Jew that worships avodah zarah and dies, that his property can't be Yorshin?
Can't?
Cannot. Yeah. In other words, he uses a chayfetz for avodah zarah, then he dies.
So that chayfetz
that item can be Yorshin.
can't you say?
Can't
Can't.
be Yorshin.
Yeah, I think so.
Marsha, but not you're not.
You're in Dachas, no, nobody
Because it
yash.
doesn't
Gets
exist
destroyed,
anymore.
yeah. Gets destroyed.
How can you mevatel a kli that was used to Tashmisha with Zarah? How can you mevatel
No, mevatel just means the guy he there's no
that? You never
cuts off an ear. He just does something that shows.
Put it in the garbage.
Tashmisha with Zarah, you never really made it a deity. I mean, it was just to make it nice. How do you undo that?
You don't use it for that anymore.
Whatever. It's just it's worthless for it. It's not. It's not part of it's not part of his avodah zarah shtick. There's no service here for it. There's no use for it as the deity. Whatever you used it for, whether you worshipped it itself or you used it to access another avodah zarah. But you don't say ksusa mixas shiure. Still, you shouldn't use it. Why? Because there's no din ksus in mixes shiur, because he could be at Mavatal. Since he could be at Mavatal, it's not Oimid Lisrif. But it's still, you shouldn't be using something from Avodah Zarah. But if you did, you were Yoitze, because it's not called Hana of Avodah Zarah. Right? It's not called Hana of Avodah Zarah.
I think but right now it is Oimid to the street.
So Kala Oimid Lisrif Kesarav Dami, according to this, means that there's no way out. In other words, that the potential is not just, it's going to happen tomorrow, right? Atazar. But since he could be Mavatal, so therefore the potential is weakened. Let's understand simply. You have a situation where you say this person, now he's not like this, right? But in 6 months he's going to be in this position. So I can already look at him now like that, right? You understand? Because he's not there today, but he's going to be there in 6 months. But what happens if he can undo it? So then it already weakens looking at the future as though it's present. Because if the future is an obvious future, there's no way out. So I say, okay, it's not there yet, but it's getting there. But if the future can be undone and it doesn't happen, so it weakens the svara to say that the future is already now. Because it's not now. In fact it could be completely undone. If it can't be undone, it's a whole different level. Huh?
Somebody's falling off the roof and we break it.
No.
That concept, then it's not considered.
Mana tvira tavar. Right? Mana tvira tavar. If you threw a keli off a roof, you're saying, and somebody comes with a bat and he bats it, I'm not mechuyev, because you broke it, you already threw it over the roof. But what does Tosfos say there? If somebody shoots a bullet, an arrow, and the arrow is going to hit the keli and you break it, then you chayev. Because you could take it away from the arrow. If you take a keli and you throw it off the roof, it's going down. Gravity. As long as you unless you can obliterate the laws of gravity. If you bring a spaceship and you take it out of space, etc. But so if you break it, you're potter because you broke a broken keli. But if somebody shoots a bullet on the keli, an arrow, not the person doesn't say a bullet, a chetz, an arrow, and now you break it, you're mechuyev. Why?
Why? It should be cutting yours, like when you're muscling something from a when there's a river that's flooding.
Okay, that's why? Because it's not a din in the keli. You understand? The arrow was going on the keli, but the keli itself, somebody could have moved it away.
And what's that?
You're right. You could put a mattress. You're right. You could put it, and you can also catch the keli. But the vart is the keli itself is on its way to be broken.
I'm just saying it's similar. Similar concept.
What's a similar concept?
To what we're saying here.
So the Chidush Harim says to be mevatel avodah zarah means it has a metzias. If it doesn't have a metzias, there's no din bittul. So he says that's why by a Jew there's no din of bittul in avodah zarah, because that means you're recognizing that it has some metzias, and there's no metzias b'chlal. So therefore, in a way, there's no bittul either. Shchalak oisam l'chalam. In Shofar.
If a yid in a war or some situation finds, for example, dinner plates with whatever images, you scratch them out. Yid does it. Does it help? No.
Was never
The guy has to be
used. Was never used for Avodah Zarah.
Oh, if it wasn't used. Fine.
It's just they print the pictures on the.
It's not called
It's an image of Avoda Zarah.
It's the image of Avodah Zarah, but then it was never used for Avodah Zarah. It was
So if it wasn't an Avodah Zarah, then you could just destroy the image because you don't want to have it in your house. It's disgusting. But it's not a problem because you don't need a din of bittul Avodah Zarah. If it was used for an Avodah Zarah, then you need bittul. If it wasn't used, they take pictures of their Avodah Zarah because that's for them enjoyable and meaningful. So just get rid of the picture. You're not getting rid of an Avodah Zarah.
But it doesn't own it anymore.
Right. So you could for sure get rid of the picture. You don't have to be mevatel Avodah Zarah. That's my. Then you can't. There's nothing to do.
It doesn't own it anymore. Why does
But so you own it.
So I'm.
But you can't.
I never made it to Avodah Zarah.
You're right. So you can't be mevatel either. Right. That's another vart. He needs to be a mevatel. You can't be a mevatel. I just want to add, I just want to add stam that there's a shit of Rabbeinu Tam who says that this Gemarah, that Shofar Avoda Zarah would work is only if the guy was mavatal it l'poyel. Most Rishonim hold the potential already makes it fine because it's not ksusim mixus shura. But the Tam says only if he was mavatal it l'poyel. If not, you still say ksusim mixus shura because he believes that since it's oimid l'sarif, even though you can undo it, it's kesarif dummy. So why can't you use it l'chatchila? He says because it's still disgusting. Since it was once avodah zarah, it's still disgusting, so you shouldn't use it. But if you used it, you yotze the mitzvah, it's not a problem. But l'fida ben Tam, to make it not ksusim mixus shura, it has to be batal b'poyel, not only batal b'koyach.
Not the difference. They live in time that the Amoraim live in Eretz Yisrael and in Bavel. They didn't have too many Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Tam live in France. Avodah Zarah every corner.
I don't understand the concept.
They knew what is it.
You're not given for Hana. Because you see the Pashtus, you put on tefillin with somebody and he thanks you profusely. You get something out of it. So what is
No question, you can ask even better. A Jew does a mitzvah, he has Hana, the greatest Hana that he could do Hashem's will, he connects to Hashem.
So why does it say that it's not?
You ever see Alani Daven Shachris in the morning? The Hana that he has. Huh? A Yid has Hana. The Rambam says in Hilchos Gerushin that if you force somebody to give a get, right? It's a kosher to get. He doesn't want to. So what does the Rambam say? That really every Jew wants to do all the mitzvahs. It's just Yitzroy Takvai. Because Yitzhahara is overpowering him. When you force him and he says, Roitzani, that's his true Ratzon. So he's doing his true Ratzon, so what do you have a greater Hana than fulfilling your own true Ratzon? I don't think mitzvah slav lahanis, it doesn't mean there's no Hana in the mitzvah.
It's not the goal.
Right. It's
So how do you define Hana?
In the next piece, I think Rashi explains it with the water, the cold water, and Rashi says clearly that if a person will do my sekshonim,
there's the Hana of Kiyum mitzvah, but it's a Hana of a relationship with Hashem. It's Hana, it's the soul enjoying. The definition of Hana we're talking about is that there's a physical, tangible, concrete Hana in terms of money, in terms of physical pleasure, and so forth. It says that Reb Nachum Chernobyl was very fat, and he became fat from Amin Yehei Rabbah. The tainug of Amin Yehei Rabbah was so fatty for him that
You take the reverse, somebody...
that's it's a lot of us. No, it's Amin Yehei Rabbah. It's not the. Okay, weiter. Put it this way. Let's say you have no Hana from the mitzvah. You're not in the mood, you're not interested, yeah?
Still do it.
You're mechuyev to do it, and does it change the mitzvah? No. The selbe mitzvah. It's the mitzvah itself, not talking about kavanas on mitzvah. The mitzvah, somebody's completely not in the mood. You understand? That's the vart. It's not in other words, that's not the definition. Definition of the mitzvah is not I enjoy. You have a schus, you enjoy it, gewaldig. That's not the definition of the mitzvah. V'haraya, a Jew has absolutely no Hana. In fact, you force him to do the mitzvah. Right? It's still the Zelba mitzvah. The same connection to Hashem. Mitzvah the mitzvah. You understand? The relationship is still there. The mitzvah itself is there. Huh? No, the mitzvah is a mitzvah.
Yeah,
if it's a mitzvah, it's tzavsa v'chibur. It's tzavsa v'chibur.
Why you're not allowed to do it, and why
You buy your wife roses for Shabbos, and she loves roses, right? You're not in the mood, you weren't interested. You buy it, yeah? She doesn't, there's something in the mood. The flowers are there, Unless you don't ruin it with a stupid comment. I wasn't really interested in you, I was just forced. Okay, then it's over. With God, that would still work, actually.
I think I actually explain
Hashem, that was still
why you're not allowed to, or why you're Yetzer, because you're going to have Hana. A Yid has Hana when he does a mitzvah, so you're not allowed to. But if you did it, if the Hana doesn't take away from the mitzvah, you're still Yetzer.
Zog's good. You're saying, if mitzvah slav lahana is nitnu, so usually avodah zarah lechatchila. The answer is, you're not supposed to have Hana from avodah zarah. And the mitzvah has Hana. So why are you Yotze?
Because it's not the definition of mitzvah.
So you're like, so you're saying it's not the definition of the mitzvah. You do a mitzvah without Hana, it's still a mitzvah. So Mela mitzvah, the mitzvah Hana is not an integral component to the mitzvah. So it's not the Hana of Avodah Zarah, right? So in other words, we have an interesting mitzvah here. You shouldn't use Avodah Zarah because the Gavra is having Hana. When I do a mitzvah, I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm enjoying Avodah Zarah. It's a Shofar Avodah Zarah, yeah. So l'chayr, I shouldn't be Yaitza. The answer is, the Hana is my personal experience. It's not a definition of the mitzvah. So the Hanas of Avodah Zarah, which I did have Hana from, and therefore I did an Isser, it doesn't impede, it doesn't destroy the Cheftza of the mitzvah. Why? Because the mitzvah doesn't need Hana. The mitzvah just needs Tkiyas Shofar, not a Diyin Hana. So the mitzvah is not created through Hanas of Avodah Zarah. Put it this way, if a guy hates blowing Shofar, he hates it. He just feels forced, right? So he didn't have Hana of Avodah Zarah. He just did a mitzvah. So the Hana is an extracurricular activity. So therefore, for you, it's an interesting thing. For you, it's an Isser. If you have Hana. If you're a good Jew, and you love Shofar and you have Hana, you did an Isser. But the mitzvah was done. Why? Because the mitzvah was not Haba Ba'aveira. Because the mitzvah doesn't need Hana. The mitzvah just needs the Shofar. It happens to be the Shofar by the Zarah. So that's an interesting mahalach. Huh? So that's the Maila in hating mitzvahs. For this Gemarah, if you hate mitzvahs, it works very well. Then you say, go blow. Gay blows von Hoidu Vad Kush. Right? Gay 5 of the Welt. Literally. You say there are such people? There are people who hate it? Shofar, I don't know. Even they don't hate it. They hate the culture because they were slapped up every time before Tkiyah Shofar, maybe. So that's why they hate it. They don't hate the. They think they hate the Shofar. It's not the Shofar that they hate. There was a Jew who once told me in Europe, she made a new type. Her father made a new type of shul, not halachic. So she said at Rosh Hashanah she changed it from the Shofar to the violin because the Shofar gave her headaches as a kid. So in her synagogue they do a violin concert on Rosh Hashanah. She says she thinks God enjoys it much more. Shofar is boring and monotonous. The guy just blows and blows. They have a beautiful violinist and does a concert. She said Yom Kippur, 1 o'clock, they do a smorgasbord with Chinese food, and she thinks God enjoys it also much more. Jews are not hungry; they could daven much better. This is what she told me once in Ireland, in Dublin, Ireland.
It's also the trauma thing. I know I have a cousin who came not from after the war because he was hiding in a bunker as a kid with a guy who was singing to him, but he had a very bad voice and totally tone deaf. And this guy is very musical family, and he said that gritted him so bad that he didn't.
The Hest. He said he had a cousin, a survivor of the Holocaust, who left Yiddishkeit after the war. Why? He was hiding in a bunker during the war, and there was somebody else hiding there who would say Tehillim all day. And the guy was tone deaf, and he had a horrible voice, and a whole day he would say Tehillim, and the other one was a musical genius, so it drove him crazy. So at the end of the war, when he saw Tehillim, he went crazy. He had traumatic experiences from it. It wasn't the Tehillim. There's the Tehillim that he hates. Yeah.
He sat Friday night in the restaurant.
The voice he hated. It happened to be, unfortunately, he was stuck with a guy. How long was he in the bunker for?
I don't know. In Budapest, probably only the last year, or last part of the
Yes, that can drive you crazy.
But he goes.
You know, sometimes you're in a shul and you have a chazan, and the guy just davens.
Sensitive to it, especially
And if you have a musical, you can go crazy from the davening. It's not the davening. Some people daven is just beautiful. You know, it's like it's a tainuk to hear them. You know, you have once in a while about tefillah, pashta geschmack to hear them daven, and sometimes it's neutral, and sometimes it's the opposite. You'll pay not to hear this person daven.
And his kid is in a trade restaurant Friday
Really?
nights. Yeah, he'll always go to the one.
Sant.
Is that thing that you just said about the Avoda Zarah? If you hit a mitzvah, you can do a mitzvah through the use of the Avoda Zarah. Is that Tashmisha or is that Avoda Zarah?
Either it's Tashmisha, even if they worship the Shofar itself, that's what the Rishonim say would have the same halacha. You could be Yotze, which is unbelievable. You have a Shofar, it's mamish worshipped, and you blow Shofar and you Yotze the mitzvah. It's a chiddush of a din. Because mitzvah is lav lahanis nit.
Why is that actually prohibited? You can't use Taj Mitzvah. Why would I think that this
it's just a little more dramatic. I mean, come on.
If bittul is, if I'm allowed to use that whole concept of...
Yeah, but in other words, this guy is serving it as a god, this guy, and you're using it. Stop.
Yeah, I guess some
At least emotionally, no?
emotional.
Just a question. Rashi, Shofar Avoda Zarah, Rashi's trying to say Sheshimshu Avoda Zarah, and you said that maybe if you use...
Rashi says Sheshimshu B'La Avoda Zarah, yeah.
You said that if you use the Shofar...
I added from the Rashba says that the same halacha would be if you worshipped it.
Why can't it be that you use the whole Bahaim or whatever, the whole...
Good shaila. This is a good shaila. This is a Gita Shaila. You want to know what happens if you have a behemoth with a horn and you burnt it, what's called tikroivus avodah zarah. They used to sacrifice animals, just like they didn't lahavdil in the Beis HaMikdash. They sacrificed an animal avodah zarah, and then you took that horn and you burnt it. So I saw the Mefarshim Taka say that wouldn't work. Huh? Yes. That you couldn't use it. You couldn't use it.
I mean, it didn't work. Couldn't work.
I'll read it to you.
Kutchum, we said that once it's Nasa Malachta, it's up, like the dam, they could use, the farmers were able to use it until when it could not go different because it's, right, once it's Nasa Malachta, it loses its...
Right. In other words, if you worship the animal as a god and it had a horn, then it would be like worshipping the horn, then it would be fine. Once it became tikroivus avodah zarah, now you can't be mavatul anymore. So ksusim mixes shiura. Even the guy, because he already sacrificed it for avodah zarah. You understand? There's nothing to do. So there's already a din sreifus, a ksusim mixes shiura. If you're worshipping the shofar, but it's intact, right? So you made it an avodah zarah. Geendikt. So you can eat mavatal tomorrow and it's ice. But here, what was the whole inyan? That you slaughtered the animal for this avodah zarah. You sprinkle the blood, you make smoke, whatever you did, the whole avodah there, right? What are you being mavatal now? It's done. Huh?
By being mavatal avodah zarah, you're showing that I'm being that animal.
You did already, though.
No,
it's not an avodah zarah that's a perpetual thing. Let's say you use a shofar every day to blow truas while they're worshipping. Every day, this is the custom. So it was an avodah zarah for 3 years. It was used, right? After 3 years, this guy becomes a Baal Tshuva, right? He goes to a Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach class, and he says, "I'm done. This is garbage." He breaks it, he shortens it, he throws it in the garbage, he steps on it. This is no God anymore. Now you take it, right? And you blow it. So we don't say ksusim mixes shiura. Or even before he's mavatal it, you take it, right? According to the other Rishonim, not Rabbi Tam, you don't say ksusim mixes shiura. Why? Because he could be at mavatal. But once it became part of tikroivus avodah zarah, there the objective of avodah zarah was fulfilled. You slaughter the animal. You're not keeping the animal in a museum and slaughtering it tomorrow. The avodah zarah wanted you to slaughter the animal. That was it, together with the horns, right? So what is he being mavatal? He's saying yesterday it wasn't an avodah zarah. You can't say that anymore. So now it's a din of avodah zarah. You have to get rid of it. So they look ksusim mixashura. You typhus? If it's a shofar intact, it's being perpetually used as avodah zarah. So yesterday's avodah zarah, right,
saying yesterday's avodah
could
zarah
be cancelled.
Right, now
be cancelled. But now I can't cancel it for the future.
It could be like a canceled actual avodah zarah.
No, I can't. Oh, the source, the deity, yeah.
Saying this,
Yes.
the usage of this was already fully
Right.
used. So,
Right.
Does it have to be from the guy who worshipped it or any non-Jewish?
Shreifa, if it has a terminal illness, a disease. No, mum just means a blemish.
Today they go to live animals.
Yeah, a mum is only negeya for the Beis HaMikdash, not for our... A disease. Shreifa means disease, sick. It's going to die. Mum doesn't mean it's going to die. Mum just means blind in one eye, a broken bone. It's not disease.
So what do? They just cut it off and they leave the animals without horns?
Yeah. Or it's an animal that's slaughtered, and then you anyway use the horns. Or it's an animal that died. Right?
It's not growing back.
The shofar doesn't grow back, no. The shofar doesn't grow back. an antler grows back. The antler is made of bone. What is it? All bone, but that's not a shofar. Like we learned, a shofar is a tube, and the bone is inside, like zachrus and nakvus, male and female. Rhinoceros is a shofar, right? The problem with rhinoceros is that it's not a kosher animal. It grows back, that's great, but the rhinoceros is not a kosher animal.
Really, it has to be kosher? Isn't that machlokas?
It's a machloikas, but most Rishonim paskin that it has to be kosher.
Okay.
And therefore the Shulchan Aruch Harav says, Yesh lepoisle afilu b'di'evid. The Mishnah Brura brings no, that b'di'evid you should blow it on it if you have no other shofar. But don't make a bracha. The Shulchan Aruch Harav says, Yesh lepoisle afilu b'di'evid, the non-kosher animal. There's basically three types of shofars. There's the mitzvah min hamufcher, is a ram's horn, shofar shel ayil, akedas yitzchak. That's top. There's a fine mitzvah, not min hamufcher, but it's a good mitzvah, and that is any horn of a kosher animal, even if it's not an ayil. It has to be kafuf lechatchila. Lechatchila it has to be kafuf, lemitzvah. If it's pashut, if it's straight, you still yoitze, but lechatchila it should be curved. There is one shitta that it's even b'di'evet, but b'pashtus, there's one shitta. But b'pashtus, most Rishonim learn that when it says kafuf, it means lechatchila. But it could be any kosher animal besides a cow, besides a parah, according to Tanakam. And then there's the third type of shofar, which is pasul. And that is the non-kosher animal, which also has a horn, and it could be curved, but it's still pasul, although some Rishonim say that it's not. But the Yevid, you should blow on it.
When you buy a shofar, you can see if it comes from a kosher animal or not. No.
You have to find out where it came from. And B'chlal, we want to blow with a ram's horn. That's the mitzvah min hamufcher, so we try to take a ram's horn. A shofar arouses people. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, a shofar arouses people. Tkab shofar gadol l'cheruseinu, right? There's three types of Jews who get aroused, who get inspired. Okay, I'm going to discuss all three, and you'll raise your hand which one applies to you. Every shofar arouses, but there's a Jew who gets aroused from a shofar of a non-kosher animal. There's a Jew who gets aroused from a shofar of a kosher animal, and there's a Jew who gets aroused from a shofar of a ram. And halacha, it's three different categories. The first one is an argument if it works or doesn't work, and some say blow it, at least b'di'evet. Mishnah Brura, Shem of Mate Ephraim, I think. Second category is kosher, it's fine. It's good, yoytze the mitzvah. Mitzvah min hamufcher is the ram's horn. You know the three types of Jews? A type of Jew, his Jewishness comes from a non-kosher animal. What do I mean? Metaphoric. What inspires him, what makes him feel Jewish is when he sees how much anti-Semitism there's in the world. It's the non-kosherness of non-Jews who hate Israel. It makes him feel like a proud Jew. He realizes that as far as he's going to go, he will not be able to escape this fate. Hitler sent to the gas chambers the most ultra orthodox Hasidic Rebbes, Rosh Hashivas, Tzaddikim from Yidden, and with the same venom and hate, he sent into the gas chambers secular, atheistic, communist Jews who didn't believe in God, who didn't believe in Judaism. For him, they were the same exact Jews. Absolutely no difference. And this means something. It's not just that he made a mistake. It means that there's something in the Jew in which there's no difference. There's a nekudas, what Chassidus calls nekudas hayadus. We call the pintel yid. There's something there by every Jew alike. And therefore, this Jew, what inspires him, what inspires his Jewishness is the fact that we were hated, we're still hated, and he fights. He fights for the Jewish people, he fights for Jewish causes, he fights for Jewish pride, he fights for Israel. That's one level of Jewish identity. The problem with that is it's very hard to raise children with that. Because what makes us unique is that everybody hates us. Why do you want to be part of such a culture? What children have to be taught is not that everybody hates us, but that God loves us. It's a whole different type of education. It's very hard to inspire your young generation. You should be Jewish because of the Holocaust. For 50, 60 years, that's how they inspired many Jews. In many communities, the source of Jewish identity was, don't let Hitler win. Don't marry a non-Jew because of Hitler. Right? In other words, the Holocaust is our obligation to continue Jewish life. But at some point, the person says, I don't want Judaism to be it's a negative experience. I don't want it to be a negative, painful experience. It's all about we were killed and murdered and hated and they want to kill us again. We're almost dead. We're almost going to be dead and we have to fight. Let me go look somewhere else. Live more inspirationally. Live positively. So is it a source for identity? It's a source for identity. According to the Mishnah Berurah B'diavad, you can even use it. But
A woman who wants to have a big family because so many Yidden were lost.
Listen, it's a beautiful thing. She wants a lot of Yidden because Yidden were lost. But there's a positive vision. She wants to build the Jewish people.
It's not fighting.
Yeah, it's not just, who are we? We're the group that's hated. What's our identity? We're the ones who are persecuted. We're the ones that Iran has to destroy. So what's my child growing up with? Right? We're the hated people. Then there's a second
shayf.
That
as a totally negative.
No, it works actually. It works better than other stuff.
I see it as a beginning to get to the second.
Good, great.
And then to the third.
Very good. The second one is.
The
second one is. Yeah, but if you stop by the first one.
I'm in a birthright group. Well, I said you're in a birthright group.
Okay.
The second one is he gets inspired by a kosher animal. In other words, the fact is there's a lot of beauty to Jewish culture and Jewish life and Jewish family and Jewish values. And it's moving for him. It's not just the group that hate it. He takes pride in his family and his heritage, in his traditions, in his culture, in his history. It's a very powerful source of inspiration for the Jewish people. Right? And the mitzvah min hamufcher is, so that's kosher. It's kosher. The mitzvah min hamufcher is he blows the ram's horn because he remembers Akedas Yitzchak. In other words, that Judaism is a covenant that the Jewish people made with God. Akedas Yitzchak represented the bris, the covenant of bris bein absarim. One horn was used for Matan Torah. One horn is going to be used for Mashiach. In other words, the Akedas Yitzchak ayil represents that his connection to Judaism is not just culturally and tradition and heritage, which is all beautiful. It's all beautiful stuff. Kneidlach, latkes, hamantaschen, bingo, bagel and lox, or today's day it's cholent, Thursday night cholent, kiddush clubs, jalapeno herrings, etc. Right? Which is it's nice, but rather there's a spiritual component. This is the person's. It's an intrinsic relationship. The person understands the Jewish role in terms of a covenant with God to change the world. That's a whole different arousal.
Which is stronger, one or two?
You know, with this I got this title from, huh? Rabbi Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook, Tofresh Tzaddik Gimel, 1933, after Hitler came to power. Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany when? January 1933, I believe, right?
Sounds right.
Around January 20, 1933, Adolf Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, became the Chancellor of Germany. That year, in 33, before Rosh Hashanah, there was a sifa or a kinos, a tefillah in the churva. You know the churva? The churva in the old city in Yerushalayim.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Today they rebuilt it, they renovated it. For many years it was just, you remember, it was just a churva. So Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook, who was the chief rabbi of Eretz Yisrael at the time, it was shortly before his passing. He passed away, I think, 2 years later, also in Elul, 35. he gave this speech. He spoke about 3 causes of Jewish arousal, because Hitler came to power then. And with Mein Kampf, the language of virulent, of poisonous anti-Semitism came to the fore. I mean, most people didn't take Hitler seriously or believe that he's going to do everything he wrote he's going to do, but the consciousness was there, especially coming from Germany. I mean, from Russia there was never a shortage of anti-Semitism. From Germany, which was a civilized country with scientists, and the success of Jews in Germany was unprecedented. The Jewish success in Germany in terms of career and trade and professionals and intermarriage, it was incredible, Jews of Germany. In terms of integration, assimilation, there was no community like that, probably ever. They were more German than the Germans. More German than the Germans in terms of integration. And it was shocking for them, shocking for them that this happened over there. So he gave this drush about Jews being triggered by 3 types of shofars. A non-kosher shofar, a kosher shofar, and an Akedas Yitzchak shofar. And so I said it over once Rosh Hashanah, so I said that we say, Tka b'shofar godel l'cheruseinu. Blow with the great shofar. V'haya b'yayim hahu yitaka b'shofar godel. What's shofar godel? It means the Yemenite shofar, it's not our shofar. If Eliyahu Hanavi, if Hashem blows a small shofar, we're not going to go. We need a shofar. It has to be a long shofar. The pshat is, you could blow in different shofars. Kabel shofar gadol means you want that it should be the 3rd shofar. The shofar gadol, the great shofar. The shofar that represents Jewish greatness, Jewish glory, Jewish nobility. Not the shofar that represents the fact that we're a persecuted people and therefore we have to defend ourselves. Which is also a ticket, an entry into Jewish consciousness, no question. What will arouse and inspire the Jewish people is not that we were hated throughout history and we have to stick together, but it's rather our unique destiny. Bris, there's a famous essay from Rabbi Soloveitchik about Bris Eida and Bris Goyrel. The unity of Jews is a unity of fate and a unity of destiny. It's two different levels of unity. Huh?
That's a very bad defense for Israel. That's when if they hang the whole Israel in the Holocaust, it's very...
That's a challenge, yeah. There's no question that the Holocaust made Jews feel the need for Israel, that they need a country that they can call their own, where you don't need a visa, you can come in. The challenge is the Arabs would always say, just because you guys had a Holocaust, why should we suffer? Right? You had a Holocaust, so why are you taking away our home? So you have a problem, you're homeless. So if you're homeless, you steal my house. So when the whole justification for Israel is the Holocaust, it becomes weak ultimately, right? Emotionally, it makes a lot of sense for Jews. We need a home. We need a home. Who was that journalist who, she died already, you know, remember that Hashkafah from the White House? The old lady, she was an experienced journalist.
Oh, she said something anti-Semitic.
She said, go back.
One thing?
She got kicked out eventually.
A rabbi interviewed her in the White House, and she said, go back to Poland, go back to Germany, right? Leave Palestine, go back to Poland. What was her name? She retired. She resigned, or she was fired. So, you remember her? She was she died recently. So she said, go back to Poland, go back to Germany, right? The problem is we were in Poland and Germany. We were there.
No, I like that answer.
Huh? We were there. We tried being there for a very long time. We would have stayed. Helen Thomas.
Yes. Even she gets mentioned here.
But I don't think those 3 levels of Shofros, Rabbi, I don't think those 3 levels of Shofros are mutually exclusive. I think you can have them all in you and at all times.
Once you have the Shofar of the Akedah, you have everything.
Maybe one's a higher Madrega, but we're not always,
The question
we have physical needs
The
too,
question
not
is two
only
things.
spiritual needs.
You want to guarantee Jewish continuity for a new generation, number one. Number two, you want to inspire Jewish continuity for a new generation. Which shofar do you blow?
It's Tziyoni.
I have an experience with the shofar.
I mean,
Listen, you love Tzionis,
no,
fine.
What
But
I'm
if you
saying,
want-
I'm saying in Israel,
I got it.
You have almost a zero assimilation rate.
I
You
know
have
that.
Maybe a 1%.
That's why you live in Muncie.
Here you have a 60%. So if you want to say
I
the
got it.
continuity of Jewish,
I got it. But even if you want an Israeli Jew to feel proud of Israel, how do you do that? With which shofar? Take a
all
look.
three.
No, take a look. Take a look at the whole generation of early Zionists who sacrificed their lives for the land,
Right.
right?
And for the people.
And for the people, right? And then, when the State Department or the UN put tremendous pressure on them, many of them fell prey to the pressure. They deviated from philosophies which they preached, practiced, and sacrificed their lives for 50, 60, 70 years. And they couldn't resist the pressures of the world at a moment of truth. Great, great people. You're talking about Menachem Begin,
Yeah.
right?
1979.
1979, Carter and Sadat. Arik Sharon,
All right, Big Boulevard.
the Hawk, okay? Gush Katif, 2005. Yitzchak Rabin, Moshe Dayan, Shimon Peres. These were these were Jews who sacrificed. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. They blew the first shofar.
Yeah, it's easy to say when you're not in the
That's
when
true.
You're not in the fight, from
That's
an
true.
objective
That's true.
standpoint, 6,000 miles away or whatever it is.
No. You're looking at me like other Haredim that you hate. I know that. But you shouldn't look at me that way. I don't say it from a place of sitting and barbecuing steak on Forche or Wesley Hills and saying, oh, they should do this, they should do that, they should do that, and I don't even send my kids to the army. You should have put that in too.
I didn't give me a shot.
Okay. I'm saying it from a place of deep respect, of deep reverence, of deep empathy and identification. I'm not saying it from a place of absolute dismissal. I know about their sacrifices. I know very well about it.
I think Rav Kook did too.
Yes, I know about him too. I'm saying it from a place of deep respect. Menachem Begin was a hero of the Jewish people. What he did, right? For years, his whole life was dedicated for it. But he himself, he went into a depression afterwards. You know that. There was a reason for it.
His wife died also.
His wife died, Aliza died. But even before that,
You think 79 he regretted?
he regretted it 6 hours after. He was never the same person afterwards. Look what happened. What he did, it was all with noble intentions. He wanted peace with Egypt. But the Pandora box that had opened up till today, the moment Israel gave back territory, gave away territory, besides the economic issue of millions and ultimately billions of dollars in oil, besides that, the moment they surrendered to that pressure, that the territory we got in the 6-Day War, right, is up for negotiation, it was just a Pandora box that never ended. And since you're dealing with people who essentially don't want Israel there, so that means there's no way of placating it. So the moment that happened, it became a B'chia L'Doros. How many Jews and Arabs were murdered and maimed as a result of all of these concessions? Take a look at Oslo. How many Jews, how many Jewish lives were murdered because of it? That's not what they wanted. They wanted peace. Of course, Rabin wanted, they craved peace. They all lost friends and children and siblings and family. I know that their intentions were noble. But look what happened. I mean, today, today everybody knows to create a Palestinian state. Look what happened in Gaza. Sharon wanted, we'll give Gaza, we'll have a Palestinian state in Gaza, and let's see what happens. And the truth is, if Hamas would have taken Gaza and would build universities there and hospitals there, all the right-wingers would have to say, you know what, we were wrong. You gave them Gaza. Look, they turned Gaza into a paradise. They turned Gaza into Teaneck, New Jersey. Okay, not shuls, but mosques, hospitals, universities, so even bars, casinos. Became Hamastan at 20,000 missiles. 20,000 missiles. They got an economy, how much they say was a multi-million, $1 billion industry of farming and greenhouses, probably a multi-million dollar industry. They destroyed it overnight. Who does that? That's how you build your state? Shaita. You give me your house and there's millions of dollars in your house. I destroyed it because it was Jewish. So you see what you're dealing with. So you think Sharon didn't regret it? Come on, these people had seichel. What was missing? What was missing? What was missing was, that they were very proud Jews, but the Jewish pride was not rooted in Torah. It was rooted in culture and history, and therefore it's subjected to pressure of the UN and the State Department. It wasn't rooted in eternal Jewish dignity based on Akedas Yitzchak.
I just add one other thing.
Not that they weren't good people.
If it wasn't for that Jewishness that wasn't based on Torah, there would be no Eretz Yisrael. And people would be sitting in Krakow, Poland today, saying Tehillim and getting beaten up every day. So, in a tachbatat every 25 years. So,
okay.
When you go that direction,
nobody will ever...
And to put down the people in a certain way, you have to reveal the other side of the coin.
That's true.
That these people were heroes of the Jewish
100%.
Jewish people. I mean,
right.
How many yeshivas in Eretz
No
Yisrael?
question. Nobody can ever disregard or delegitimize an extraordinary accomplishment of a certain individual. But not to point out terrible errors would be equally foolish.
I'm just saying,
Shimon Peres.
When you point out the terrible errors,
Basher Mishpatoi Shampala,
it should
yes,
be tempered. It should be tempered so the young people today can realize.
Point well taken.
That a guy
point
who's
well
not
taken.
He's still Jewish and he's still.
I don't disagree with you. Point well taken. That he has a neshama is Avoda. That's the problem. If he wouldn't have a neshama, he wouldn't be able to make such choices.
It starts with the first shofar, but you can't stay stuck there.
It's b'chlal not a stira where you're saying fakert. That's the pain. The pain of it is that you're dealing with great people. I agree with you. You don't understand. Okay.
Just adding one another level of the first kind of shofar.
Shimon Peres and Yitzchak Rabin did the Entebbe raid, right? It was an unbelievable feat. Kol Makayim Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael Kilukiyim Olam Olam. Yoni Netanyahu.
I'm not even saying Mikoichi V'Atzmi. Was it Manis Friedman said on YouTube? He's here on YouTube. He says there was a million times. I think he uses that word. 1,000,000 times more Nisim in the 6-day war than there was in Yetzias Mitzrayim. Hello. 1,000,000 times more. I'm saying it's all from Hashem. I'm not saying Koichi V'Atzmi to be a soldier.
I understand.
It's together with.
Yes. I got it. We're on the same team.
Otherwise, the young children.
You're accustomed, if I may say, that when you hear criticism, it's coming from a hatred to Israel. It's coming from a venom towards other Jews who don't fit in. But you're dealing with the wrong person with that. You understand? Right. Here it's coming from love, from respect.
I wouldn't speak with maybe such passion.
So I'm saying there's a lot of religious Jews who are misguided. They're indoctrinated.
Right.
You understand? Right. They call secular Jews goyim. Right. So in fact, anybody who doesn't dress like them, is called a goy. Right? And they treat Israel in a horrible way. There's even people, I don't know if you see the videos, the crazy extremists soldiers coming to daven Ma'ariv, right? You ever see these videos that go around Yerushalayim? Soldiers coming to daven Ma'ariv with a mincha, and they scream and throw rocks and want to beat them up and so forth. You ever see what they do?
Yeah.
Yeah? So these are, I would love to call them lunatics. Unfortunately, they're not. They're really brainwashed. They're indoctrinated. But here we're coming from a completely different position. It's not... Huh? I once gave a speech I spoke about Israeli soldiers. And I said at the drasha, it was a very big island, there were like 2,000 people from Jews. And I said that when you go in Eretz Yisrael and you see an Israeli soldier, the right thing to do is go over to him, every soldier, and say, "Ani rak rotzeh lahagid lecha shtei milim, toda rabah," and give him a hug, buy him an ice cream, yeah? Say shalom aleichem to him, and just say, "I want to thank you for sacrificing your life for the 7 million Jews living in the Holy Land." That's what I want to do. That's all you should do. Not getting into the argument, serve, not serve, who should serve. I'm not getting into that. But if there wouldn't be Israeli soldiers, everybody would be moided that every yeshiva bach has to go to war, right? There would be no Rosh Hashanah. Even if Shmuel Oyabach would hold that every yeshiva bach has to go to war, because if there would be no Israeli soldiers, you have to close the basement, you have to close the safe and protect the Jewish people, right? Even the most krumme cup in the world, even the most crooked mind. So the fact is that they're protecting you, you could sit and learn. The minimum thing you could do in all the Musa Shmuz and in the Litvish yeshivas, they always talk about Hakaras HaToiv. You ever heard the word Hakaras HaToiv? So what's Hakaras HaToiv mean? That if somebody passes you a tissue box, you have to say thank you. And what if somebody sacrifices his life for you and your brother and your sister? You don't have to say thank you. If he passes a tissue box, there's a mitzvah of Hakaras HaToiv because he passed you a tissue box. And if not, you have to ask him Mechila Erev Yom Kippur. If he doesn't want to be Michael, you have to send 3 friends to ask Mechila because you didn't say thank you for passing the tissue box from one table to another table, right? And for a soldier who's 19 years old, the same age you're sitting in the Mir or in Slobodka or in Panovich or in Chevron or in Chabad, wherever you are, right? Or in Shabin, and you're learning, and he's on the front lines, and he buried his friend, and he buried another friend, and his parents buried a child. And he sacrificed your life, so you don't have to say thank you. There's no Hakaras HaToiv there. You don't have to say thank you. So I saw a few people walked out. So afterwards I asked them, why did you walk out? I was walking out. They said, Hakaras HaToiv to them? I said, yeah. They said, they hate us more than the Arabs. The secular soldiers hate us more than the Arabs. I said, I want to give you a bracha. That if you get lost in Israel, yeah, you should get lost, instead of getting lost in Ramlah by the Arabs, you should get lost by secular Israeli soldiers. I'll tell you what's going to be the difference. If you get lost in Ramlah, they'll throw you off a porch, they'll cut you into pieces, and they'll dance. You remember the lynch with the 2 soldiers, right? If you'll end up with secular Israeli soldiers, they'll give you a hot bowl of soup, they'll give you to drink, they'll give you a night's sleep, and they'll return you to your families in safety. So that's just my blessing to you, that you should end up by the people who hate you more than the Arabs. Because the people who hate you more than the Arabs will actually make sure you live, and the people who hate you less than the soldiers will actually make sure that you die in torture. That's my blessing to you. Don't end up by the people who love you more. End up by the people who hate you more. My blessing to you. So where does that come from? That's an absolute indoctrination and distortion, right? It's a violation of humanness, of menschlichkeit, of Torah, of Yireh Shamayim, of everything. And this has nothing to do with anybody's opinion, right? About if yeshiva bachim should go serve or not. So I'm not coming from that place. You react from that place. You don't understand. This is coming from a place of very profound appreciation for everything that's going on. Nonetheless, one has to appreciate mistakes that great people make. Okay. You know, I could talk about this for 29 hours, right? What? No, we're not arguing. We're not arguing. He knows we're not arguing. Okay, back to music. Now we're going to sing a little bit. I once gave a shiur. The Chassam Sofer writes, why did the Jews go crazy from Dasan and Aviram? Why did they have such influence? By Koirach, they mamish. It was two troublemakers, yeah? You have two troublemakers. Every shul has two troublemakers that sit in the back and hate the rabbi, the gabbai, the president, right? They hate everybody. Every shul has that. The bigger the shul, the more people. But they always have two people in the corner, always complain. But nobody takes them seriously. They're chronic complainers. You know those people. Whatever you do is not good. So why did people take them so seriously? Some Sofer says that Jews saw Dasan and Aviram as great as Moshe and Aaron. So somebody once asked me, where did some Sofer come up with this? That they saw Dasan and Aviram as great as Moshe and Aaron. And I was searching. It's very hard to know. Where did some Sofer come up with this? And then I found an incredible source. Incredible. It says in Parshas B'Shalach that V'Amar Pari L'Bnei Yisrael Nevuchim Heim Ba'aretz. Pari told the Jews that the Jews got lost in the desert. Sagar Aleim HaMidbar. What do you mean V'Amar Pari L'Bnei Yisrael? They weren't there anymore. They left. Right? So Rashi says it means he said about the Jews. Targum Yonasan ben Uziel says that Pari spoke to two Jews who stayed behind. Dasan and Aviram. Dasan and Aviram didn't go out by Yitzias Mitzrayim. They stayed behind. They stayed behind. They never went with the Jewish people. The question is, if they stayed behind, how were they in the desert? Right? They fought with Kairach. How did they end up in the desert? It's crazy. They ended up in Mitzrayim. How did they end up in the desert? The pshat is, they went later. When did they go later? They were with Parai. That means they went together with Parai to pursue the Jewish people in the Yam Suf. But then they should have drowned. They went with Pari into the ocean, into the sea. They should have drowned. So half of a fellow, what happened? So the Be'er Mayim Chaim writes that there was a special Kriyas Yamsuf for Dasan and Aviram. Why was there a special Kriyas Yamsuf for Dasan and Aviram? So Yeshua Leib Diskin, who was Litvak Sheba Litvak, he was the Rav of Brisk. Reb Chaim Brisk said one of the three Eluyim of the generation. You heard of Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin, yeah? Do you still get requests for tzedakah from the orphanage, the Diskin orphanage in Yerushalayim, Beis HaYesimim Diskin? So he founded in Yerushalayim. He was the Rav of Brisk, Lomzha, Mezrich, and then Yerushalayim. The son of Brisk. He was a Gaon Oilam. One of the biggest Litvish G'dolei Hadar, Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin. So he says, all the Jews who didn't want to leave Mitzrayim died by Makas Chayshach. Why didn't Dasan and Aviram die by Makas Chayshach? The answer, he says, is this. The people who didn't want to leave Mitzrayim, it's because they felt close to the Egyptians. They felt close to the Egyptians. They didn't want to be part of the Jewish people. He says they were the aristocrats. They were the feinschmeckers. They had special condominiums in Egypt. They were chaverlap. They were mayafah. They would be invited to the operas and to the ballets and to the receptions. They hung out in the salons of Berlin and of Cairo with the anti-Semites because they were better than everybody else. Rishon Leib Diskin says not Dasan and Aviram. Dasan and Aviram, it says in Parsha Shmois, were one of the police who were beaten by Paro's people because they didn't want to demand from the Jews the quota of the bricks. So it says Dasan and Aviram, one of the police. Rishon Leib Diskin says they were beaten for other Jews. So even though they were Yeshayim and Kaifrim and Apikursim, they didn't die by Makas Chayshach. Not only that, according to the Be'er Chaim, they had their own Kriyas Yamsuf. So when Pari comes into the sea comes back, and they have their own Kriyas Yamsuf, and they go through to the other side, and then they spend the rest of the time fighting Moshe and Aaron, because they don't believe in anything. But they took a beating for the Jewish people. And that's why they would treat, imagine now two Jews have their own Kriyas Yamsuf. Of course you would respect them. Who wouldn't respect them? They have their own Kriyas. Who gets their own Kriyas Yamsuf? It's Haflu Afel, and if you read the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, you'll see the story of Kriyas Yamsuf says twice. I did a shir about this Parshas B'Shalach. the story of Kriyas Yamsuf is repeated. And the second time, you could see it's different than the first time. According to this, you could see because it was a second Kriyas Yamsuf of Dasan and Avira. So I said, here's the chayin. You have your Dasan and Avira. Koifrim apikursim gemurim. They were by Matan Torah, they didn't believe in God. They saw Kriyas Yamsuf, they didn't believe in Moshe. They complained about the man, they complained about the Meragim, they fought against Korach. Real troublemakers. But because they took a beating for another Jew, they had their own Kriyas Yamsuf. Imagine, and they didn't die with everybody else because they weren't sitting in an ivory tower, right, and saying, oh, these crazy Jews. What the Germans used to call the Ostjuden, yeah? Ostjuden, the Jews of the East, the dirty, filthy Jews of the East with the Langepayas. They weren't like that. They felt for the Jewish people. They cried with them. They were beaten. They were at least culturally very Jewish, and they were ready to fight for them. So for them, they had a special Kriyas Yamsuf. So imagine a 19-year-old boy, yeah? Nishkin Koifen, Nishkin Apikoiris, he's a Tinnik Shanishba, he grew up without Shabbos, grew up without anything. And puts his life on the line. Not only he gets a beating, he's ready to die for the Jewish people. You don't think he gets his own Kriyas Yamsuf? And you don't think he deserves at least a thank you? This was my message. You hear Lenny was tutzich?
Yes, sir.
Okay, these are Jews that take a beating for another Jew. Okay. I'll tell you a Geschmack Meise, it's a beautiful story. The Rav of Vilna was a Jew named Reb Chaim Oizer Gradzensky. You ever heard of Reb Chaim Oizer Gradzensky? He was a great giant. He passed away in 1940 in Vilna, right before the war, beginning of the war. He had one daughter, but she passed away before him, so there's no. He didn't leave any descendants. Reb Chaim Oizer, he wrote Shal Shuvas Achiezer. He once met one of the Rebbes of Poland, the Ostrovtza Rebbe, Rabbi Chiel, mayor of Ostrovtza. He lived in Ostrovtza. Ostrovtza is a city in Poland. He passed away in 1928, Tofresh Peches. He was a very holy Jew, and he was also a big Gaon. He fasted for 40 years. You know that? 40 years?
Where was Ostrovtza?
Ostrovtza in Poland. Next visit, you'll go to Ostrovtza. Rabbi Chiel, mayor of Ostrovtza. He wrote a sefer called Meir Einei Chachamim. He was he fasted 40 years. He would eat 40 years straight. They said even Shabbos, some people say even Shabbos. There was a shmui fast. At night he would eat a little kasha, like oatmeal, a little kasha. That's it for 40 years. The Olam, the Chassidim would say that it was because he felt the Holocaust coming, and it was like the Tzaddik, the Gemarah says in Gittin, he also fasted 40 years. He was mamash, he was a unique Jew. They say that once he told a baker, there was a Jew who had a store open on Ostrovtza on Shabbos, and he said, "You mechal Shabbos, you should close the store." He says, "Rebbe, you're also mechal Shabbos. They say that you fast on Shabbos." He says, "Yeah, but from my chilul Shabbos, nobody learns. From your chilul Shabbos, people copy you." It's different. My chilul Shabbos, you couldn't do Ken's fast. Nobody wants to copy it. Okay. There was once a few Chabad Bachrim who started to copy the Lubavitcher Rebbe, how the shoes he was wearing and the socks he was wearing. So somebody told his wife, so she said, "Zon ze am noch machen mit seine Tanesim." Why don't they emulate him, how much he fasts? Because he used to fast non-stop. He fasted sometimes weeks straight. So whatever, he didn't stop fasting. So "Zon ze am noch machen mit seine Tanesim besser." Anyway, so the Bichil mayor of Ostrovtza meets Reb Chaim Oizer once. So Reb Chaim Oizer was a Litvish Gadol. He was from the the world of Lithuania. He was from the world of Poland, of Chassidus. So Reb Chaim Oizer tells the Ostrovtza Rebbe did not like talking. He would barely speak. I mean, he had a big hoif, he had a yeshiva, but he wouldn't speak a lot. They once asked him why. So he said, "My father was a baker." His father was a baker. And he taught me one thing in life, and that is, if you keep the oven closed, the bread comes out much warmer and much better. You open the oven, it releases a lot of the air, it releases the heat, it releases the warmth. That's what he said. That's what I learned from my father. You keep the oven closed. It's a dohi ben avart. I don't know if I should be the one saying it, but but the vart is avart, that's certainly. So the Bechiel Meir would not speak out. So Chaim Oizer meets him, and it was a simcha by him. So he says, "Astrof Rebbe zokt avart." Say something. He doesn't like saying. He made with his face, doesn't want to say. So he said, "Come on, you can't let me go without a vart." They say about you that you're a great man, a gavre rabbe. So he says, "Thank you, but was epis?" He says, "They say you're a gon, you're a Talmud Chacham, you're a Sarah Torah, you're mamish a genius, a gavre rabbe. How could you not say something?" So the Bechil Meir V'Stavtza says, that's not pshat a gavre rabbe. Gavre rabbe is not somebody who knows how to learn. He says, "Why do you say that?" So he got a word from him. So I'll tell you why. The Gemarah says in Makkos, Tav Chav Beis, Amar Rava, Kama tipshoi hani bavloi. The Babylonians are foolish. Why? They stand up in front of a Sefer Torah, but they don't stand up in front of a Talmud Chacham who learns the Sefer Torah. Why is it so foolish? He says, because look at the koyach of the Chachamim. The pasuk says in Parshas Ki Seitzei that when somebody deserves lashes, you have to give him kedei arbayim b'misper. You give him 40. V'asur rabbanan u'batzri. The rabbis came and they said it's not 40, it's 39, and they learned it out from the psukim that it's not 40 and 39. So you see their koyach to interpret and give commentary to the Sefer Torah. So if you're respecting the Torah, you should certainly respect them. That's what the Gemarah says in Makkos. As to Asrof Rebbe Reb Chaim Oizer, I don't understand. Why did Rav have to go running to Parshas Ki Seitzei? He has it in Parshas Emor. Usfartem lechem imacharis haShabbos, tisperu chamishim yoyim. Count 50 days. Came the Rabbanim and said it's not 50, it's 49. And also they learned it out from Limudim, it's not 50. They did the same thing. They have a koyach to interpret the Sefer Torah. Why did he run to Ki Seitzei? Is the Charaya, he says, that the Gemarah says it's a Gavre Rabba, the Talmud Chacham is a Gavre Rabba. The Charaya that a Gavre Rabba, a great man, is not somebody who knows how to say a pshetel in Chumash, pshetel in Torah. A Gavre Rabba is somebody was and nem tarop a klap von Ayidin. A Jew is supposed to get 40 lashes, and he says instead of 40, he gives him 39. He takes off one klap, one spank, some pain of a Jew. Das macht him a Gavre Rabbe. That makes him a great person. Not his brilliant, encyclopedic, profound knowledge. And nem tarop ein klap von Ayidin. They say that Chaim Oizer said, das is Chassidus. Chaim Oizer got very excited. He said, das is Chassidus. Also it zählt man,
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.